welcome back once again to the Country HQ Spotlight On podcast, where we shine the spotlight on the latest and greatest rising stars in country music, both here and overseas. And one of the ladies we've been waiting to talk to a very long time. I saw her live for the first time in what I think was one of the gigs of all of Tamworth this year, and we've been talking ever since then, talking about what's next. Stefanie Duzel is a rising star in the old country, Americana, country rock, country music, you name it, she covers it. In the genre-bending sound and the songwriting and the style of her music is about to explode once again. She's had one album out already. She's getting ready to release her first single from what comes next. So we thought we'd have a chat to her. Steph Duzel, good afternoon and thanks for your time today.
Hey, Adam. Yeah, pleasure. Pleasure to talk to you.
So, to quote the Phantom comics from back in the 60s and 70s, for those who came in late, where have you been in our lives with this amazing voice and talent? Where have you been hiding?
That's a good question. I think I've been doing everything in my power to avoid what I really wanted to do all my life and kind of almost succeeded up until now.
Where was because you've worked in the hospitality industry, you've managed live venues and so on for quite a while. Where was the crossroad? Where was the aha moment that, yep, I want to record this, I want to get down, I want to get in a studio, I want to put pen to paper, then I put my voice on track. What was the aha moment for you?
Oh, that's difficult to answer because, like, with music over the years, I've sort of gone in and out, of doing various things, and then having owned a venue and running that, and going through the whole COVID thing, which was really difficult, and we had a fire as well, so that was difficult. And then towards the end, I was just pretty much ruined, and It was almost like, I guess, upon reflection, I'd played all my cards, and it's almost like everything was stripped of me, and there was nothing but the music left to do. It's sort of like my hand was forced, and then when I looked at all my options, it was like, well, kind of everything's pointing towards the music now. There's kind of nothing else left to do. So I thought, well, I may as well embrace that and see what happens.
That first album was produced by Lachlan Bryan and Damien Caffarello. How did that meeting come about?
Well, that was, through mutual friends, and I'd been working with Lachlan. He was doing some shows at the pub with Henry Wagons, and then other mutual friends as well on the Americana scene. Suggested I record with them. And so I made the call and it ended up happening.
Fantastic. So we're sitting on the cusp of days away, 2 days away, or 1 day away from the release of your brand new single, Ain't Gon Be Me. Yeah. How are you feeling with that release, imminently awaiting to share with the world?
I'm actually really excited about it because I really like the sound of this single, and I feel like it's more of how I want to sound with my music. So I'm excited to get it out there.
Can you tell us a story about the track and Ain't Gon Be Me and how it came together?
Well, it's funny. It's like I'm sort of got to a point with my songwriting because I've been writing songs for many, many years, and most of my music is very much like personal stories of my life. So with this track and the last few songs that I've kind of been writing, I sort of got fed up with telling my own story and thought, I'm not telling anyone anything anymore. So I'm just going to draw on all of the experiences kind of that I've had in my life and write songs that have like elements of truth to them. Like I pick and choose so I can have like little bits from all sorts of places.
Yeah.
But they're not necessarily like an actual story of something that's happened in my life, which is normally what it's like in the past. So that's what I did with this song. And I really wanted to write a song that you could dance to, that I could have fun with, and that I could sort of, upon reflection, laugh at myself with the story, because it's kind of a story of the past, and it's a story that, many women probably go through, with meeting a partner or whatever. So, that's sort of how it came about, if that kind of makes sense. It was just
makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I just wanted to write a song that I could laugh at myself.
Yeah.
about, but tell a story that everyone sort of can relate to.
And you've got these amazing lyrics. They come together. They're so fluid, not just on the new single Ain't Gon Be Me, but on your first album. But then you've got the music behind it as well. I mean, it's a unique sound of alt country and rock, and it's like, Steve Earle influence meets Melissa Etheridge meets Cher's country period. And then you've got like the alt country modern things like, the Jason Isbell or and then even certain country elements to it, like straight stuff country, like, Lainey Wilson. What are some of biggest musical influences?
Oh, that's a good question. I can't say that there's any like one person or a few people. I've just listened to so much music over the years, which I can't attribute to one artist. It's more, for me, it's always been about the tune and like, to me, the melody. A melody is everything. If it's got a killer melody, I just love it.
Yeah.
And I do lean towards sort of popular music, I guess, in that sense, because I just love a good hook as well. Yeah. It's all about the melody and a good hook for me, and lyrics, of course, which are so important. But yeah. So as far as influences, I really don't know. I guess I love songs. I can tell you sort of like who I listen to now, and I listen to a lot of local music as well, with my friends and people that I've been working with. People like Lachlan Bryant and the Wilds and who else. Like, I guess what really got me into Americana was quite a few years back when I first came across Tracy McNeil and The Good Life. Like, I was just captivated by Tracy and her songwriting as well. And I mean, she's doing still amazing things now with Dan Parsons and Minor Gold. So like, people like that, she was kind of a big influence on me, like in more modern times now rather than in the past.
Where did your love of music start? Do you remember? Is it younger in life, or did you grow up in a musical family, or that time when, not just being from a booking point of view, from a venue owner point of view, but also as a fan and then into an artist? Where did your love of music first start? Do you remember?
Well, I actually do remember, and I was 5 years old when I, heard a song which I loved and thought, that's what I want to do. I didn't even understand what was going on at the time, but I thought I just loved music and wanted to do that. And there's nobody else musical in my family. I'm a bit of an enigma, I guess, in that sense. And I recently had DNA testing done, and it came up in my traits, because it tells you, what you're more likely to do and what you're not likely to do. And it actually came up as very unlikely that I would even play a musical instrument. So where it came from, I don't know. But I knew from a very early age that all I wanted to do was music.
What are the rest of the family? Are they accountants or tax lawyers or something like this, which is just...
No, my dad was a builder, and like my mum, she was pretty much like a housewife and home with the family her whole life till, we grew up, and then she went out to work. But yeah, it's like, just the family were immigrants, from Europe, and that came to Australia in the 50s or thereabouts. So yeah, nothing special at all there.
How have you evolved musically, say, from your first album, or even your first single, to where you are now with the release of Ain't Gon Be Me, and what else you've got coming next? How have you evolved?
Well, I think a fair bit of evolved from that time. When I did that album, I pretty much left the songs in the hands of Lachlan Bryan and Damien Caffarella, because everything that was happening with my business, closing up, I just wasn't in a space to do much with it myself. I mean, I had the songs, but it's like, here's the songs, let's do something with it. So I relied on them a lot as far as a vision and, the production of the album, which really appreciated at that time. And, they were very, very supportive with my journey at that time. Whereas this time around, I've got definite ideas about how I want my music to sound and what I'm going to do moving forward. And it's quite different to what the last album was.
Do you know, I mean, you've got the rest of what's coming next from your singles? What can your fans and music listeners expect from, say, Steph Duzel in the next 6 to 12 months?
Well, yes, I've got quite a few songs that I'll be recording. Actually, next month I'll be doing a few with the view to putting another album together. So this song is just a bit of a teaser to what's coming up next. And I'm excited too because I've got more confidence now to try different things as well. With my recording, the next few songs I'm doing, there'll be about 3 or 4 tracks that I'll be doing actually with a live band in the studio, which is different to how I've recorded in the past. So I'm really, really looking forward to that.
You always get that really exciting live sound, don't you? I mean, live's the obvious word, but it's fascinating to see. And as a listener who's been listening to music for a zillion years, you can always tell sometimes. I remember like the Mavericks were one of the first bands that I ever heard record live, or Mike Henderson and the Blue Bloods, and just had a different feel. And back then, I'm talking 30 years ago, back then bands didn't record live. You had someone layer the guitar track, someone layer the bass line, someone layer the drums and the rhythm section. But it is such a vibrant feeling. So I can only imagine what it's going to feel like for you as a performer to be able to record live as well. I think that would be just as stimulating for you as the performer as would for the listener.
Totally. And that's my favorite thing that I like to do. I love the performance, getting up on stage with the band and putting on a show. That's my all-time favorite thing. And recording's usually been quite difficult for me. It's not something that's, come very easily. So, but like I said, I'm becoming more confident with that. And then to be able to put the two together, the recording with live performance, like I'm really excited about that.
And we've seen, like, we're in the cusp of, say, September now. So this new single, Ain't Gon Be Me, is about to come out. But September in the United States is always Americana Fest. And as we know, like Lachlan Bryan's over there at the moment with Catherine Britt as their duo, The Pleasures. And you see a lot of Australian artists there. And also we're very fortunate to see the alternative country side of things growing in Australia as well. I mean, as a person who was a venue owner and now is part of that industry, how do you feel about the current alternative country Americana scene in Australia, especially when the mainstream country scene is just going through the roof?
Yeah, I just think it's fantastic. I think, from a musician's perspective, like we're so fortunate that, the Americana scene's come to the forefront now because it gives a lot of us that didn't quite fit into other genres with our music an opportunity to, bring it all together under this, one umbrella. So it's kind of like it's found, it's created a home for, people like myself that don't quite fit into any one genre, So and that the whole country music scene is blowing up again. Like I just think it's amazing and fantastic.
Especially, Victoria's always had that scene, doesn't it? Someone was joking with me a few weeks ago. They said, when you go across the New South Wales border to Victoria, they ask you if you want to be in an alt country band. And so but it's such a plethora of things. I mean, let's put the lover of music fan on, because I've seen you at gigs and you're just as much into the music when you're in the audience as you are when you're on stage. And is it because I live in Sydney, so we just get cover bands and cover bands and cover bands.
Yeah.
But as a person who's been around that music scene in Victoria and the Melbourne scene and the East Brunswick scene and all those areas there, is it difficult to, I suppose, what I'm looking for, the word, I suppose, find the time or find where you put your resources, because there is so much music and so much amazing talent available, or is it just it's always available so you're able to balance it out?
I look at it like I tend to be a bit of a hermit these days and quite private. So I look at it as it's so fantastic because anytime you do want to go out somewhere, there's something going on. Like there's no shortage of things to choose from. So that's how I kind of view it. Like, and I fly by the seat of my pants a lot as well. So it's kind of spur of the moment. Oh, let's go do something. So I'll just go out and see a show.
And I think it's also, there's options. I remember I was down in Melbourne a few years ago and Andy and Laura from the Weeping Willows invited me to their gig. And it's like, oh, what time is 7 o'clock? No, 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. It's like, how good's this? 3 o'clock on a Saturday. And then
Yeah.
I think by the end of the night, I'd been to 4 or 5 different gigs and so on.
Yeah, and you can literally do that where
Yeah.
you just hop from venue to venue, and they all tend to be quite close together. So, yeah, it's not difficult to do at all.
Performing live, I mean, I saw you, were very treated to an amazing performance you gave this year at the Tamworth Hotel during the
Thank
Tamworth
you.
Festival. And it was just an epiphany. It's just like, I'd seen you previously in acoustic matter, but with a band, you just came light. It was amazing. And the songs took on a whole different meaning. And, again, looking to see what comes next in that journey. But if there was someone you could share a stage with, past, present, or future, who would a couple of those people be?
Good. Well, I think everybody's darling and sweetheart at the moment is like Sierra Ferrell. If I could ever get on a stage with her, I'd be
Hey, she's
like,
coming in January or February to Australia. So,
yeah.
Sierra, if you're watching, give us a call. Steph's ready
I'd
to
like,
go.
I don't think I'd have the courage to get on stage with her, even though I would love to. I'd probably just stand there and freeze and not know what to do next. But yeah, absolutely, Sierra, she's incredible.
And that's such a unique sound that she brings to the marketplace, isn't it? And the audience. It's
Yeah.
so throwback. It's almost like Orville Peck or even Wagons in some sense. It's a throwback.
It's such a modern twist on an old sound. Like,
Yeah.
she's incredible, yeah.
When you were on the live sense, when you were booking the venue, when you owned the venue, what was one of the most amazing nights that you had there?
Gee, I wish I could pick just one. It was like so many of them. Nearly every performance I would say to myself, that's the best show we've ever had. That is
Yeah.
the best show we've ever had. And then the next week, someone else would come and go, now that is the best show we've ever had. So they were all so good, from the up and coming acts. I loved having, the young acts come into the pub, people like Polyman, like Sarah Carroll's sons and Fen Wilson when they did shows there, like just extraordinary. And then the old timers like Ross Wilson and Joe Camilleri, their shows, you just understand why they got to where they are because they're just, such pros at what they do. So it was just, all of it was incredible.
And that's the one thing we have here in Australia too in the music industry, isn't it? We have this great legacy or heritage that the Joe Camilleris, the Ross Wilsons, to a different extent, Chisel and Jimmy, and everyone can still maintain a very respectable living, but also a very strong audience on, as opposed to say like in the States where they might get shipped off to a casino in Branson, Missouri or somewhere like that and so on to be a tribute act. Whereas here we seem to, look, we've got Cold Chisel about to do their 50th anniversary tour and I think they started out with 6 shows and it's up to about 28 now. So we still have a great crowded house. We're about to do the Steps of the Opera House for 4 shows, I think. So we still have this great respect for music. And I think that's where, especially within the Melbourne scene and the Victorian scene, but also that alternative country scene, it is honouring the people. Like, Ross Wilson can fit into that genre if he chooses to, or Brian Cadd and things like that.
Yeah, well, he's headlining Dashville, I believe.
That's right. We're heading up to Dashville in a few weeks, so we're going to see him up there for sure. So
that's right.
How important is it as an artist for you when you're putting together your next single, your next release, and potentially an album? Do you balance that, I suppose, that creative control and that creative ability versus that commercial sense? Is it something that affects you when you're thinking about releasing, or do you just strongly invest in your own creative mindset?
Jeez. Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question, and one obviously I need to think more about.
It's a $64,000 question. We'll get you on the next podcast, but you have to think about it, because one of the things we talk about a lot of times is that it's fantastic to be an independent artist. You can drive this, and this, but then we have a thing where you must certainly see sometimes some very mainstream commercial music because you just don't quite get it, especially in the pop genres. You see people pouring their hearts into their music in their singer-songwriter and the troubadour sense and the Americana and all country sense. And then you see other people, you can just tell they've gone onto AI or auto-tune and just released this song which just there's no connection to and so on. So I think the one thing you were saying before is that you've had the personal experience you've drawn from, and you have thought about your audience. You're saying you just wanted your audience to have fun just as you want to have fun. So I think you are quite connected to that and you understand your audience. And
well, I think, in that sense, what's important is that you have to be connected to yourself And it's, it's a fine line. It's really hard because what do? Do you honor yourself or do you honor your audience?
Yeah.
What I've found is that by honoring yourself in your own story, you find your audience and they connect with you. So I think ultimately it is about reaching inside and telling your own story, and through that you connect to others.
Yeah. And I think there are ways you can do that. Like, Springsteen will play, songs which are not so popular. People will just want to, I've been at Springsteen shows and second song in, someone shouts out, play Thunder Road. And it's like, I'm going to play it, mate. Just be patient. Whereas he'll go and play, Darkness on the Edge of Town from start to finish. And that's his creative thing on stage as well. I think the stimulation of an artist to be creative on stage is just as important as on record as well. And I think that's where that genuineness comes through. And I definitely think we saw that genuineness in your performance at Tamworth, and I can sense it. It's coming through in this brand new single, Ain't Gon Be Me. So wrapping up, Ain't Gon Be Me is released the 27th. We're going to have the exclusive debut on Country HQ, and it's going to be on all the streaming platforms and through Steph's socials as well. Last question before we let you go, Steph. It's your birthday today. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Last question, same question we ask everyone. What's it like to be Stefanie Duzel on stage?
Wow, I just feel like I've left this dimension and entered another one. That's what it feels like.
That's fantastic. I think that's what it's supposed to feel like, isn't it? Because
I would agree, yes.
Yeah, excellent. Well, Stefanie, thank you so much for your time and sharing your insights with us today. I've heard Ain't Gon Be Me, folks. If you haven't heard it yet, come back to Country HQ on Thursday. It's going to debut there, and it's going to be available on all your streaming platforms the day after as well. So we can't wait to see what comes next. There's a lot in store, I'm sure. For all the listeners, make sure you check out Stefanie Duzel's brand new single, Ain't Gon Be Me. And until next time, this has been Adam Simon from Country HQ Spotlight On. Keep it country. And Steph, thanks very much for your time today.
Pleasure. Thanks, Adam, for having me.